So in this video, I will be discussing something that I think isn't talked about enough, and it's one big overarching reason for an avoidance avoidance. This one thing is a huge thing for dismissive avoidance, but can also be present in fearful avoidance. And I have personal experience with doing this in a few different scenarios before I healed my fearful avoidant attachment style. So I can speak from the point of view of what it feels like and the reasoning behind this, as well as from a professional standpoint. This one thing spans into so many areas where it just shows up as avoidance to the other party in the relationship. So let's deep dive into this topic. If you're new here, my name is Sarah Whaling, and I'm a life and relationship coach. In my one on ones, I use my professional knowledge and personal experience to help my clients work through the topics that I discuss in my videos, such as boundaries, healing insecure attachment styles, and healing from narcissistic abuse, to name a few, all with incorporating the subconscious and unconscious mind, which is how we truly heal and change the brain. If you're interested in one on one coaching, please visit my contact page on my website and you will receive a follow up email with my session information. So let's get into a huge reason for an avoidance avoidance. Sometimes it's a boundary thing. Sometimes what manifests as avoidance is someone with an avoidant attachment style just setting one big boundary. At the heart of this, many avoidants have negative feelings about setting boundaries, so they avoid certain situations in which they would have to do this. If they feel like a situation is going to cause them to have to set many little boundaries, they will often just set one big boundary in order to not have to deal with it. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's talk about different scenarios that this can come up in so that we can really illustrate just how many things that this can affect. An avoidant might avoid making future plans because they don't know how they're going to feel too far off in the future about those specific plans. Let's take the example of going out somewhere, could be anywhere. Rather than making those plans and then having to possibly say later, hey, I'm not really feeling like going out today, let's stay in today instead, or deal with any nuance that may come up, they prefer to avoid making future plans altogether and might only want to stick with making plans the day of or not so far into the future. So they just set one big boundary, which would be an internal no to far off future plans. Another example, and this is one I've heard a handful of times, is someone has family members that don't respect boundaries, which then makes them uncomfortable anytime they try to set boundaries with these family members. And they actually feel a lot better setting one big boundary by moving away, moving far enough away that they're no longer in positions in which they have to deal with setting boundaries with these family members. It's a common misconception that dismissive avoidants are great with their boundaries. It's just not true. Every insecure attachment style has an unhealthy relationship to their boundaries in different ways. And one key component of healing your insecure attachment style and becoming earn secure is healing your particular unhealthy relationship to your boundaries. So, what is behind the negative feelings for people with an avoidant attachment style in relationship to their boundaries? For a dismissive avoidant, they often avoid conflict. Conflict makes them uncomfortable. It's seen as a headache and sometimes seen as a waste of time. And they often do not know how to properly navigate conflict because this was something that was not modeled to them. They can then just set one big boundary in order to avoid many little conflicts that could arise when setting many little boundaries. For a fearful avoidant, it's very, very often that they grew up with the initial messaging or that they were in a long-standing relationship with someone that sent the messaging that trying to set boundaries made them a bad person, selfish, or that some kind of consequence was coming their way once they set a boundary, and setting boundaries makes them unsafe. It's not uncommon for fearful avoidants to not even know what boundaries are or what needs are or that they have needs. The coping mechanism of setting one big boundary can span into so many areas. If this is something that you've experienced, feel free to share your experience in the comments below. So, if you're an avoidant and this is the way that you've been handling situations that you find difficult with having to set boundaries, you're going to want to, you guessed it, heal your relationship to your boundaries. This first entails figuring out what your limiting beliefs and negative feelings are around setting boundaries. Is it that you were conditioned to believe that you don't deserve to have boundaries? Is it that boundaries make you selfish? Is it that you were conditioned to believe that once you set a boundary, bad things were coming, and then you find yourself waiting for the other shoe to drop? In particular, with narcissistic abuse, the one thing that the partner or loved one of the narcissist is generally trying to avoid is making the narcissist angry. Now, with this one, I'm not referring to situations with physical abuse, though obviously that can arise in some cases, and you want to end that immediately. I'm referring to just purely the angry emotional pushback of the toxic person. And I have one of the most important tips that I can possibly give you when it comes to setting boundaries with toxic people. And that is learn to hold on to your boundaries and tolerate the fact that they are not going to be happy with you because they will not be. They are a separate person from you, and they're allowed to be unhappy, and you're allowed to have an emotional boundary and still be happy and feel safe and hold on to your boundaries. Even people who aren't unhealthy might initially give you some pushback if you've never set boundaries before. So, one, rewire unhealthy beliefs about boundaries, and two, become comfortable with the fact that there are going to be times that it makes other people unhappy and hold on to them through that. Boundaries aren't for other people, they're for you. If you're a loved one of an avoidant that is working through this to become better with boundaries and communication, it definitely helps if you're supportive and consider them when they say they feel X, Y, or Z. Well, I hope that this sheds some light on a pivotal factor that is causing some of the avoidance and what could be going on internally for them or for you if you are the avoidant. What you need to do to heal this particular factor of some of the avoidance from your attachment style to work towards healing into a secure attachment style if you are the avoidant, and what you can do if you're the partner or loved one of the avoidant working through this. If you need extra assistance on this topic, this is one area that I help my clients with in my one-on-ones so that they can heal their insecure attachment style and become securely attached. And you can send a message to get the ball rolling on my contact page via my website. If this was valuable to you, please give it a like and share. And if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button and bell for all notifications in order not to miss any future videos. Take care.